Welcome back, everyone, to the English Proficiency Podcast. We are absolutely delighted to have you join us once more for another vital discussion aimed at elevating your command of the English language. In our journey so far, we have explored the profound art of active listening, a cornerstone of effective communication, and we have navigated the fascinating complexities of understanding diverse English accents and dialects. Today, we confront a linguistic puzzle that often perplexes even advanced learners: deciphering idioms and understanding figurative language. This is where English truly reveals its depth and cultural nuances.
Indeed. Imagine encountering a sentence in English where all of the individual words are familiar to you, yet the meaning of the entire phrase remains completely elusive. This is the common experience when faced with an idiom or a piece of figurative language. These expressions do not mean exactly what their individual words suggest. They are often colorful, vivid, and deeply embedded in the culture of a language, making them both challenging and absolutely essential for true fluency and natural comprehension. Without an understanding of idioms and figurative language, a significant portion of natural, everyday English conversation, as well as much of its literature, media, and even formal discourse, can seem like a collection of nonsensical phrases. You might literally understand the words, "It is raining cats and dogs," but if you do not understand the figurative meaning, you will be utterly confused by the image of animals falling from the sky, instead of merely heavy rain. This gap in comprehension can be frustrating and isolating.
For English language learners, mastering this area of language is a hallmark of advanced proficiency. It allows you to move beyond literal translations and to truly grasp the nuances, humor, and cultural references that enrich native English communication. It transforms your ability to listen not just for what is said, but for what is truly meant, which is a far more sophisticated level of understanding. This is where language truly comes alive. So let us define our terms clearly for today's discussion. Figurative language is a broad category of language use, where words are used in a way that deviates from their conventional or literal meaning in order to achieve a special effect, create a vivid image, or convey a more complex idea. It is the opposite of literal language, which means exactly what it says. Figurative language invites you to think beyond the obvious, engaging your interpretive skills.
Within this broader category of figurative language, idioms are a specific type of expression where the meaning of the phrase cannot be deduced from the literal meanings of its individual words. The meaning is fixed by convention and cultural usage. For example, to kick the bucket literally means to strike a container with your foot, but idiomatically it means to die. There is no logical connection between the words and the meaning without prior knowledge. The challenge with idioms lies precisely in this non-literal nature. You can't simply look up each word in a dictionary and piece together the meaning. The whole phrase acts as a single unit of meaning, and that unit must often be learned as a whole. This requires a shift in your approach to listening and vocabulary acquisition. It is about recognizing patterns of meaning, not just individual word definitions. Our goal today is to equip you with the insights and strategies necessary to crack the code of idioms and other forms of figurative language. We will explore why they exist, common types, and, most importantly, practical methods for understanding them in context and incorporating them into your expanding linguistic repertoire. This will significantly enhance your listening comprehension and allow you to engage more authentically with English speakers.
Before we deep dive exclusively into idioms, it is beneficial to understand some other common types of figurative language that English speakers use regularly. Recognizing these will broaden your comprehension and allow you to appreciate the richness and expressiveness of the language. These forms of figurative language are often more transparent in their meaning than idioms, but they still require a non-literal interpretation. One of the most widespread forms is the metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that directly compares two unlike things by stating that one thing is another, without using like or as. It creates a vivid image or conveys a strong impression by equating one concept with another. For example, if someone says, "The world is a stage," they are not literally saying the world is a physical platform. They are implying that life is like a performance, full of drama and roles, where individuals play their parts.
Another very common type is the simile. A simile is similar to a metaphor in that it also compares two unlike things, but it explicitly uses the words like or as to make the comparison. This makes the comparison more obvious and easier to identify. For instance, he fought like a lion does not mean he was literally a big Pat. It means he fought with the bravery and ferocity attributed to a lion. Or, her smile was as bright as the sun, clearly indicating extreme radiance. Then we have personification. This is a literary device where human qualities or actions are attributed to inanimate objects, animals, or abstract ideas. It makes descriptions more lively and relatable. Consider the phrases, "The wind whispered through the trees," or "The old house groaned in the storm." Wind cannot literally whisper, and a house cannot literally groan. But these phrases create a powerful image of sound and age, enhancing the listener's mental picture.
Another often used form is hyperbole. Hyperbole is the use of extreme exaggeration to emphasize a point or create a humorous effect. It is not meant to be taken literally, and its intent is usually quite clear from the context. For example, if someone says, "I am so hungry I could eat a horse," they are clearly not suggesting they could devour an entire animal. They are merely emphasizing the intensity of their hunger to an extreme degree. Or, "I have a million things to do today," implies an overwhelming number of tasks, not a literal count. Understanding these various types of figurative language enhances your listening comprehension by preparing you for expressions that deviate from literal meaning. While they might not be as opaque as idioms, recognizing them prevents misinterpretations. If you only listen literally, you might imagine a whispering wind as a person, leading to confusion and breaking your flow of understanding.
The purpose of figurative language is to add depth, color, and emotional resonance to communication. It makes language more interesting, memorable, and impactful, moving it beyond a purely functional exchange of information. English speakers use it constantly, in both formal and informal contexts, to convey complex ideas efficiently and vividly. When you encounter these forms of figurative language, your active listening skills from episode 1 become even more critical. Pay attention to the overall context of the conversation or text. What is the speaker trying to describe? What emotion are they trying to convey? The surrounding words and the situation often provide strong clues to the intended non-literal meaning. For example, if a speaker describes a politician as a lion in the debate, the context of a debate immediately suggests strength, courage, and perhaps aggression, rather than a literal animal. The context guides your interpretation away from the literal, allowing you to appreciate the metaphorical comparison. As you listen, try to identify the two things being compared in a metaphor or simile, or the human quality being attributed in personification. For hyperbole, listen for obvious exaggeration that is clearly intended for emphasis or humor. This analytical approach will improve your ability to decode these expressions naturally over time, integrating them into your natural comprehension process.
Idioms. Characteristics, challenges, and initial strategies for cracking them. Now, let us focus specifically and more intensely on idioms, which represent perhaps the most challenging aspect of non-literal language for English learners due to their unique properties. As we established, an idiom is a phrase or expression whose meaning cannot be understood from the ordinary literal meaning of its separate words. It has a meaning that is unique to the phrase itself and often deeply culturally specific. This distinct, often arbitrary meaning is what makes them so difficult to grasp without prior exposure.
One of the most widespread forms is their fixed nature. You usually cannot change the words in an idiom, substitute synonyms, or alter the grammatical structure without completely losing or fundamentally changing its established meaning. For instance, To spill the beans means to reveal a secret. You cannot say to spill the legumes or to drop the beans and expect the same meaning to be conveyed. The exact wording and the order of words are crucial. Any deviation renders the idiom unrecognizable or senseless. This fixed nature is what makes them so tricky. Learners often try to dissect idioms word by word, applying their knowledge of individual vocabulary, only to find the result makes no logical sense in the context. This inevitably leads to frustration and the understandable feeling that English is unpredictable or arbitrary, an impression we seek to demystify today.
Another significant characteristic, and a major source of their difficulty, is their cultural embeddedness. Many idioms originated from specific historical events, long-forgotten occupations, traditional games, or unique cultural practices that are not universally known or immediately obvious to someone outside that culture. For example, to bite the bullet came from a historical period when soldiers literally bit lead bullets to endure extreme pain during battlefield surgery without anesthesia. Without knowing this historical context, the phrase is simply nonsensical from a literal perspective. This cultural component means that even if you understand every single word in an idiom, if you're not familiar with the historical or cultural context from which it arose, its meaning will remain an impenetrable mystery to you. This highlights the profound importance of not just linguistic knowledge, but also a growing awareness of cultural context when truly learning and living a language.
Furthermore, idioms almost always defy direct, word-for-word translation. A direct, literal translation of an English idiom into your native language will almost certainly not convey the same meaning and will very often sound absurd, humorous, or completely nonsensical to a native speaker of your language. This is precisely why attempting to translate idioms word for word is a common pitfall for learners and is rarely an effective strategy for comprehension or communication. Consider the idiom to break a leg, used as a wish for good luck before a performance. If translated literally into many other languages, it would sound like a sinister wish for physical harm rather than an encouragement for success. This stark disparity vividly underscores the unique, non-literal nature of idiomatic expressions across different languages.
The sheer number and immense variety of idioms in English also pose a significant and often overwhelming challenge. There are literally thousands of idioms, ranging from very common ones that are used daily in informal and even semi-formal contexts, to more obscure or regional ones that are encountered less frequently. It can, understandably, feel like an endless and daunting list to memorize, leading to a sense of despair if approached purely as rote memorization. Finally, the speed of natural spoken English makes it incredibly difficult to even identify when an idiom is being used, let alone deduce its specific meaning. Native speakers often utter idioms rapidly, as if they were single, common words, without pausing or emphasizing their unusual or non-literal nature. This fleeting recognition opportunity adds yet another formidable layer of difficulty for listeners, requiring a highly attuned and quick ear.
Therefore, the paramount key to cracking the complex code of idioms is to fundamentally shift your mindset. You must accept that they are unique linguistic units whose meaning is fixed and almost always non-literal. Your strategy must move entirely beyond individual word analysis to a more holistic approach that leverages broader context, pattern recognition, and dedicated, focused learning. When you encounter an idiom in spoken English that you cannot decipher from context, make a conscious effort to research its meaning immediately after the listening session. Do not allow it to simply pass you by and become another missed opportunity for learning. Use a dedicated idiom dictionary, a reliable online linguistic resource, or even a comprehensive general English dictionary that specifically includes idiomatic meanings and usage examples. When conducting your research, do not just look up the bare definition. Crucially, try to find multiple example sentences that demonstrate the idiom being used in a variety of contexts. This helps you understand its nuances, its common applications, and how it is actually used by native speakers in real-life situations. Pay particular attention to the typical situations, emotions, or subjects with which the idiom is usually associated. Once you have looked up and understood an idiom, actively rehearse its meaning and usage. This could involve writing it down in a sentence, saying it aloud repeatedly, or even trying to use it in a practice sentence of your own in a low-stakes environment. This active engagement with the idiom strengthens the neural connections in your brain, making it significantly easier to recall and recognize in the future, improving both your comprehension and potential active use. The most powerful tool you have at your disposal when listening to an idiom is the surrounding context. Even if the idiom itself is unfamiliar, the words and sentences immediately before and after it, as well as the overall topic of conversation, often provide very strong hints about its intended meaning. Always ask yourself, given what the speaker has just said or is about to say, what logical, non-literal meaning could this strange phrase possibly have in this specific situation? This forces your brain to actively engage in inference, drawing logical connections between the known elements of the communication and the unknown meaning of the idiom. This continuous mental exercise is absolutely crucial for developing your intuitive understanding of idioms over time, as it trains your mind to seek meaning beyond the literal.
Another excellent strategy is to listen very carefully for the speaker's reaction or the listener's response immediately after an idiom is used. If someone says an idiom and the other person laughs or frowns or provides a sympathetic or critical comment, these immediate reactions can provide invaluable clues about whether the idiom was positive, negative, humorous, or serious in its implication. For instance, if a speaker says, "The new project really hit a brick wall," and then sighs dramatically, the sigh powerfully reinforces the negative implication of the idiom, strongly suggesting a significant obstacle, a major setback, or a definitive failure. Pay meticulous attention to the nonverbal cues and vocal intonations we discussed in Episode 1, as they are equally relevant and informative here in decoding subtle meanings.
Beyond immediate context, consider the overall topic and the speaker's general tone. If the discussion is primarily about business challenges and difficulties, and someone says, "We are really behind the eight ball," the business context strongly suggests that the idiom relates to being in a difficult, disadvantageous, or losing position. This broader contextual awareness provides a framework for educated guesses. Another highly useful strategy is to begin to categorize idioms by common themes or typical situations. While it is practically impossible to memorize every single idiom that exists in the English language, you can start to group them into common categories, such as idioms about time, idioms about money, idioms about emotions, idioms about challenges, idioms related to communication, or even idioms related to specific body parts. For example, knowing several idioms related to difficulty, as in up a creek without a paddle, hitting a rough patch, in a pickle, between a rock and a hard place, can help you recognize the general meaning of a new, similar idiom, even if you have not encountered it in isolation before. This thematic grouping significantly aids memory and provides a robust framework for understanding. Many online resources and textbooks categorize idioms this way, making your study more efficient. As you learn new idioms, consciously try to place them into these mental categories. This structured approach makes the learning process less overwhelming and far more manageable than simply attempting to memorize isolated, disconnected phrases. It actively creates a network of understanding where new idioms connect to existing knowledge.
Repetition is absolutely key for truly internalizing idioms and making them part of your active and passive vocabulary. You will very likely need to encounter an idiom multiple times in a variety of different contexts before its meaning becomes truly automatic and instantly recognizable for you. Seek out diverse listening materials that frequently use idiomatic expressions, such as conversational podcasts, engaging talk shows, contemporary fiction, or even certain genres of film and television series. These contexts provide authentic and repeated exposure to how idioms are used naturally in real-time communication. Consider creating flashcards specifically for idioms, with the idiom itself clearly written on one side and its precise meaning along with a helpful example sentence on the other. Regularly review these flashcards, perhaps daily or weekly. The more you review and reinforce your understanding, the more readily you will recognize them in fast-paced spoken English, and eventually, the more comfortable you will become using them yourself.
Another powerful strategy, once you feel the degree of confidence, is to actively try to use new idioms yourself, even initially in a controlled practice environment. Start by incorporating them into your written exercises, such as journal entries or short essays. Then, gradually try incorporating them into your speaking practice with a patient language partner or tutor. This active production solidifies your understanding, enhances your recall, and naturally makes recognition easier when you hear them. When attempting to use an idiom, start with ones that have fairly straightforward meanings and clear, unambiguous contexts. Do not try to force an idiom into a conversation where it does not fit naturally or sound awkward. The goal is to use them appropriately and naturally, not just to use them for the sake of it.
Be acutely aware that some idioms can surprisingly have multiple meanings depending on the specific context in which they are used. For example, to run into can mean to unexpectedly meet someone. I ran into an old friend at the market. Or to encounter a problem. We ran into some technical difficulties. Always confirm the intended meaning based on the surrounding information and the overall flow of the conversation. This requires a flexible and exceptionally attentive ear. Also, pay very close attention to collocations related to idioms. Some idioms almost always appear with certain specific verbs, prepositions, or other words. For example, you typically get cold feet, meaning to become nervous or hesitant. You do not usually have cold feet in that idiomatic sense. Noticing these fixed patterns of use will significantly improve your recognition of idioms and your own accurate usage of them.
To truly achieve long-term mastery of idioms and figurative language, it is absolutely crucial to integrate these learning strategies into your consistent daily English practice. This is not a one-time study. It is an ongoing, continuous process of exposure, recognition, and careful integration. A highly effective practical application is to choose just one new idiom each day or week, depending on your personal learning pace and time availability. Focus intensely on it. Look up its precise meaning, find multiple example sentences demonstrating its use, and then try to use it in a personal journal entry, a social media post, or a conversation with a language partner. Consistent, small-scale, focused learning builds significant cumulative knowledge over time.
Diversify your listening sources as widely as possible. Listen to stand-up comedy in English, watch popular sitcoms, tune into interviews, and engage with podcasts that feature informal, spontaneous conversations. These contexts are often incredibly rich with idiomatic expressions, providing authentic exposure to how they are used naturally, colloquially, and in rapid speech. Do not be discouraged by the sheer volume of idioms in English. Instead, focus strategically on understanding the most common and frequently used ones first. Many reputable resources provide curated lists of the top 50 or top 100 most frequently encountered English idioms. Mastering these core idioms will provide you with a significant advantage and boost your confidence in everyday communication.
Remember that the journey to mastering idioms is iterative and ongoing. You will continually encounter new ones, and you will consistently need to apply the strategies of contextual inference, targeted research, and repeated, deliberate exposure. Embrace this challenge as an exciting and rewarding part of unlocking deeper linguistic and cultural understanding. Your active listening skills are the indispensable foundation upon which all of this is built. Your ability to discern literal from figurative meaning, to infer meaning from context, and to systematically learn new idiomatic expressions will profoundly empower you to truly crack the code of English idioms and figurative language.
Thank you for joining us on this insightful and comprehensive exploration of idioms and figurative language. We trust that the strategies and numerous examples shared today will equip you with the essential tools to navigate this challenging yet incredibly rewarding aspect of English comprehension. Join us next time as we continue our fascinating journey into the intricate world of language acquisition. We look forward to exploring another crucial aspect of English proficiency with you. Until then, keep listening, keep decoding, and keep embracing the richness and expressive power of the English language.
Goodbye for now, and may your linguistic journey be full of understanding.
Farewell, and may you always understand what is truly meant.